I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about Chinese law and the Chinese legal system and busting a couple of myths. I'm an insider because I've been living in Hong Kong and working in Hong Kong and China for close to 30 years. Have been involved. I'm an arbitrator in China, and so have a lot of contacts in the Chinese legal profession. You know, in the Chinese legal profession, among foreign legal professionals involved in China worldwide. It's a highly it's a difficult topic because it's so broad and so complicated, but I'll do the best I can in a few minutes. This is to say, people, I guess Americans and a lot of us have a lot of misconceptions about Chinese law, and it's for reasons both in the U.S. and in China. And I would say what I know about the Chinese legal system, it's not unique to me. There are quite a few people, you know, in the U.S. who know something about Chinese law. That insights about the subtleties of Chinese law tend to be siloed in either academic and professional writing, and it's hard for some of the granular detail to get out there in what our ordinary people know about China. In China, there's, of course, a lot of information control, either cross-border and within China. So Chinese judges will say one thing to an audience of other judges and something very different to, you know, when they're being published in People's Daily. I guess a second thing is I think it's very often true that Chinese legal writers, they don't know what interests the outside world. I had this summer, I was talking with a senior Chinese judge talking about maritime law. And he showed me his article on the South China Sea. And he said, "Oh, can you help me get it published overseas?" And I said, "You know, you for sure you are agreeing with Chinese government policy. There have been umpteen articles in the foreign press. What would get you published outside of China a lot easier is articles that interested the legal profession outside of China." And I guess a third thing is that interesting insights Chinese academics have about what's going on in their legal system also gets siloed into academic writing that nobody but other academics read. So I guess the biggest myth is there is no law in China. There is actually a lot of legislation. You know, it's some of it, you know, sometimes conflicts with one another. It's often delayed. You know, it's several steps behind what's going on. This is, you know, particularly in the commercial area. P2P financing would be one example. Big characteristic, insufficiently specific. and changes with party policy. I mean, another obvious issue is that government officials at higher and lower levels don't always have what the Chinese call rule of law thinking. You know, I mean, even the South China Sea dispute is one example of that, where Chinese international lawyers would have wanted the Chinese government to at least put an argument on concerning jurisdiction, but they were overruled by the politicians. And I guess a third kind of overall theme about the Chinese legal system, there's a fuzzy line between law and party policy. Party policy, of course, guides where law is and where law is going, and how legal institutions operate. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that there are still a lot of commonalities between Chinese law and law in the rest of the world, and China is increasingly looking to foreign legal systems as it modernizes its own legal system. Anyway, the fuzziness between law and party policy, the frequent changes in party policy and government enforcement, et cetera, present practical issues for individuals, companies, you know, including American investors in China and their lawyers. So it's practical. Second myth is that the ordinary Chinese person is like unaware of their rights. Certainly, this is, you know, I mean, John will talk more about what's going on in the human rights area. You know, I guess the data is there. Chinese people are increasingly aware that they have legal rights. A piece of the fourth plenum is for the party state to channel those social disputes into the legal system. Yeah, so when judges write about what's going on, they're saying Chinese people are increasingly conscious of their rights. Yes, the third misconception is that Chinese legal officials are party hacks. They do tend to be, you know, most of them are party members. Being an unthinking party official is certainly true of some. It's not true, you know, but it's a lot more complex than one might think. This quote, we thought borrowing the US system was the answer to our problems. This was a comment made, you'll see there's a photo of Judge Richard Posner of the Federal Seventh Circuit speaking to the National Judicial College, which is the training school for senior Chinese judges. So Judge Posner was talking about problems or issues for the U.S. Judicial system. And one of the comments in the audience was, we thought borrowing the U.S. system was the answer to the problems with our judiciary. Now I see the Americans have their issues too. But this tells you that even senior judicial officials are idealizing the U.S. judiciary. You know, I follow Chinese legal social media very closely. What you see there is, so social media is an important platform for Chinese legal profession to get their analysis out. I mean, it's also a platform for marketing, but it's very often a forum for people to put their criticism of what's going on in the legal system. Yeah, so most recently, I think earlier this week, a very popular article, an article was published saying that cases decided from above, so court cases that are decided by, political officials are mistaken or unjust cases. So this got over 100,000 page views. So showing you people are thinking, but most legal professionals are focusing on kind of doing their work and trying to make a living. Yeah, so I guess another myth, Chinese legal system does not work. Certainly true part of the time, sometimes not. For the for the court system, a big issue is local government still funds local courts. So for cases against government, you have a lot of problem in getting just decisions when in cases where individuals take the government to court. Issues in the Chinese legal system about, on the criminal justice side. The fourth plenum of, 2 years ago, are intended to improve the legal system within the restraint, within the cage of party policy. So more reforms are intended outside the area of criminal justice, since that is an important area for the party. That's where how they can maintain their control and social stability. So slide to say there are a huge number of disputes, even despite not a super high degree of confidence in the judicial system, increasing number of disputes, especially since last year they, cases have doubled since 2005, and then there are a huge number in the first half of this year. So this is despite not terribly high public confidence in what's going on, in their own legal system. So more detail on that. As to what we can do, a big issue among legal professionals is how to engage. There's Judge Posner lecturing to the Judicial College. So there's a lot more that's going on than we see. I guess a couple examples of the G20, U.S. and China to further dialogue on bankruptcy law. This is really more China looking to the U.S. To bolster up its bankruptcy law as it deals with zombie enterprises. As was mentioned earlier, China's become an important antitrust and other regulator. And there's also criminal justice cooperation ongoing, because China, yeah, there's a lot of crime coming out of China. So, and yeah, last slide, ideas are powerful and travel far. You have even Chinese military lawyers, judges talking about the importance of independence of the judiciary. Thank you.